that the daughter was the reincarnation of the paternal grandmother. He said on this particular day, he brought some raw eggs. I can't remember the details of what he said he did, but according to him, he called the daughter by the grandmother's name and then did what he was supposed to do, and the sickness disappeared. I'm sure we have stories like that, and many of those kind of stories, right? If we are at least an adult, and even though we don't hear a lot of it now, we know about the whole Ombanje thing and a Biku story that have always been there, right? Where you believe that a particular child will be born to a family, dies, comes back, dies, comes back, the same person over and over and over again, right? But the question then is, do Christians believe this? Do we believe this? All right? That's the question we are going to ask ourselves. So now let's take some definitions. We are discussing reincarnation. Let's even define what to call incarnation. Incarnation, that's the first word there. Incarnation. Please, the computer, you have to go with me. Incarnation. Incarnation is a word that simply means that taking on a flesh, taking on a body, like a spirit or a deity. You know, spirit in the recent cannot be seen, but a spirit now taking on a body, a physical body, so that it can be seen. That is called incarnation. And of course, when we talk about the birth of Christ, you know, he said he was God and he came and dwelt among us in flesh and in blood. So we normally talk about the incarnation of Christ. Are we following? So the first word is incarnation. When a deity or a spirit decides to take a physical body so that it can now be seen by the physical eye. If you understand what incarnation is, it becomes easier, you know, to then say, what then is what? Reincarnation. When in English, when you say re, it means something is happening again, right? Re. I can use something and I reuse it. That means I'm using it what? Again. So reincarnation then says, is not a situation where a cultural, religious, philosophical belief that the soul or spirit, after biological death, after death has already happened, right? That this spirit will come back and begin a new life in a new body, right? There are versions, but let's just say in a new body of another human being, okay? For a number of reasons. One of it, which is the most popular one, is to live out their karma. I will discuss karma very shortly. Are we following? Reincarnation means that somebody dies, but that person's soul or that person's spirit returns again in another human body to fulfill or to complete certain actions that are still what? Incomplete. Does that make sense? Does the definition make sense? I'm not saying, do you believe it, right? Does the definition make sense? That's what we call reincarnation. Right. The popular belief as the reason for reincarnation is what we call karma. Right? Karma, popular in Hinduism and Buddhism, it says that when a person is on earth, all his actions will be recorded. You know? And at the end of the day, depending on how well you've done, how much good you've done, how much evil you've done, there will be some balancing, you know? If you are owing, if you have a deficit, if you have certain things you've done and you've not attained a spiritual level of maturity, you will have a carryover. You have to come back, right? And this law of karma is saying that maybe you come back to start suffering because in your former life, you did not what? Live well. You will continue to come back as many times as possible until you live out your karma. They call that the state of nirvana. That means you have already attained that spirit, that level of purity that is required for a soul to be ascended fully without what? Coming back. Are we following? That's the religious belief that for every bad thing you've done, you always come back to pay for it, and you keep paying until you are fully absorbed yourself of those bad karma. Is that clear? So, you already have an idea what we are talking about. And the question then is, can we justify this from the Bible? Let's continue. So far, reincarnation, karma has to do with death. Has to do with people dying and then possibility of what? Coming back again. Let's then discuss what exactly happens when human beings die, right? It's also like definition again, but I have to take different beliefs, so that when you hear this, you will not be surprised. There are different beliefs of what happens when we die. So let's take the first one. The first one is the theory of what they call materialism. Theory of materialism. This simply means that death is the end of it. Nothing survives after death, right? It's like you go to sleep, you never wake up, there's no soul going anywhere, there's no spirit going anywhere. That is the end of it. That is the theory of what? Materialism. It is the basis of what we call atheism. People who believe that there's no what? There's no God. That the universe came to be by some evolution theory, tectonic theories, and all of that. And if they are made, mostly industrialized worlds, people don't believe there's God. If you go to places like China and the rest, they don't believe there's God. And they can explain to you how the universe came to be. And the popular belief for them is then that when you die, that is it. Nothing else happens. I once had a flight from O'Hare Airport in Chicago, US to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. The duration of that flight is 7 hours, 15 minutes. And I had a Nigerian by my side as a seatmate who spent that 7 hours, 15 minutes just trying to convince me that God does not exist. In his theory, he said that now we are in this plane. So this plane just crashed now. We sleep, and that's the end of it. And of course, I've encountered those kind of conversations over and over and over again, right? Let me not bore you with those things. The second theory of what possibly happens when we die is paganism. What do the pagans believe? Right? The belief is that when we die, we will become a shadowy, like a ghost. We are not fully human, right? But we can be seen somehow. We're also hovering around somewhere. We are somewhere in the place of the dead, and we kind of still monitor what is happening in the land of the living, right? So that's the theory of paganism. That is why people will tell you about their ancestors watching over them, right? Where I come from is a very popular belief that, when they'll make sacrifices to their ancestors. They want to connect to their ancestors because they believe that they need to be in good terms with their forefathers for things to be well with them. Because somehow, those people are still what? Monitoring them. So it's there that when people die, they don't rest. They still somehow get involved in other things, according to the theory, right? Occasionally, they will ask for hot drinks. Occasionally, they will ask for cola nuts. And when it's a serious business, they can even ask for a goat, right? That's the theory of paganism, that people really somewhere remain in the land of the living and all of that. The other one say pantheism, a bit difficult to explain, but this basically says that death changes nothing, right? All we do is we transition from one form to the other. We don't really die. We continue to revolve somehow in trying to keep the cosmic body whole, right? I don't know in what form, I don't know which one shape, but that death changes nothing. Everything remains the same. That's the theory of pantheism. And of course, reincarnation, which is the subject of what we are discussing today, is that when someone dies, the soul survives, the spirit comes back, and then the spirit tries to inherit another body. And then what happens? Dies again, comes back again, dies again, comes back again, until the karma, remember I defined that karma, until they've been able to live out their karma. That's what that theory says, right? the Buddhism or the Buddhist or Hindus call that the state of nirvana. You have come many times that you have accumulated good karma. Karma can be bad or good. You have accumulated enough good karma that you no longer have any carryover. You can go and not come back. Right? That's the theory of reincarnation. Of course, there's the theory of immortality, which most of us we confuse with the theory of resurrection, right? Resurrection, rather. This says that it's only the soul that survives death, but never the body, right? Theoretically, this is true, but only to an extent. He said this soul eventually reaches heaven or hell through certain stages, right? It could have gone to purgatory, like Catholics believe. But there are a number of transitions, but eventually this soul gets to heaven or hell through different stages. The difference between these and Christian belief or resurrection is that we are told that eventually the body and the soul will reunite in resurrection, right? The body will become glorified body. That is why people should have identity, even when they die. Soul is just a spirit, but when you see people in heaven, you'll be able to recognize them. You can say, you are here. Because the body is supposed to come out of the grave and reunite with the body, with the soul. But the immortality says no, the body never just completely, it's only the soul that will continue. And of course, the theory of resurrection, which is the only thing we believe in the Bible, talks about that resurrection of the body, joining up the soul after death. This is the only thing we can see in the scripture, and we'll discuss this in more detail. Now, let's think of the cultural and religious background of reincarnation, like we are discussing already. A number of religions, like we mentioned already, Hinduism, Buddhism, Chinedu, and all of that, mostly Asian religion, arising from India, hold this firm belief in reincarnation, right? They all hold a common doctrine of karma. I've said karma many times, because our topic also talks about law of karma. They hold this normal country that there's a cause and effect. For everything you do, there's a result. And every body, every soul must attain a level of purity. So if you've done things that are evil, you must come back to pay, right? This suggests that you will continue to come back as many times as possible until you live out your karma. That is the religious belief. So when, for Buddhists, it's not tradition, it's not culture, it's religion. That's what they preach, right? I once had a roommate in the university who, it was a Catholic, and along the line, while being my roommate, he joined what do they call it again? Not a kinka. Oh God, come on. How did that even? I'll come back to that, right? I'll come back to that. Don't worry. I've forgotten it. Then the first thing he started preaching to me was the theory of reincarnation. Right? He started telling me about karma. Gray message. Yes, he's doing gray message. So he came back and he was telling me, so it's not culture or anything, it's religion, right? It will explain to you how karma works and explain to you about nirvana and all of that. So there's a religious background to that. For those gray message, for those Hinduism and Buddhism and all of that. Now, but beyond religious belief, we believe in reincarnation in Africa. The reasons may be slightly different. Reincarnation is a belief mostly held in what? Africa, including Nigeria. Maybe not necessarily for the reasons of karma. We don't say that people come back because they've done bad things. As a matter of fact, when someone is evil, part of the curse you give that person that you will never reincarnate, right? Don't come back ever. So reincarnation is not because someone is evil. It's not about karma. Based on our cultural belief, reincarnation is simply for you to come back for a number of reasons, right? And in fact, in Igbo land, they will say Ilowa. It is, in the olden days, once a child is born, part of the, the housekeeping arrangements is that you need to go and find out who has what, come back, right? For a number of reasons. You want to know how exactly to manage that particular person growing up. You know, maybe he's a very hot-tempered man that has come back. This man, you need to be careful with him, even as a baby, right? Or it won't be someone who has been offended before. Say, oh, you have to be really nice to him this time around, right? So that is it as a belief in Africa, that souls will come back for a number of reasons. It is not just in Igbo land. I think it's also Yoruba land, Ido, Akwa Ibom. We all believe in that. With the influence of Christianity and growing civilization, this belief is no longer as popular as it used to be. But it still hasn't completely died down because many people still believe that, right? Education and civilization have watered it down. Education will make you to start questioning this, questioning things, to ask yourself, well, how does it work, right? But beliefs are also very strong to the point that most times people believe things that don't even make sense. You know, that is why you have a congregation of people who are smart, and someone is there telling them that he's making a phone call to God. And some of them are probably professors, so it's not about education, right? But still, with Christianity and civilization, this belief has kind of watered down, but it is still prevalent among us, right? Okay, I don't know what we are seeing here. Sorry. Please go back. I'm still talking about, I'm not done yet. So, okay, yeah. So in Africa, for a number of reasons, people will have to reincarnate, you know, sometimes for the love of the family, right? If someone wants to say how happy he or she is with the family, say, for this family, when I come back again, I will see the what? A member of this family, right? That is basically telling you, I'm very happy. Or you'll be telling your daughter or your son, in my next world, you will see in my daughter, because you believe that there's what? A next world. So that's because of love. In some cases, it's also because of hatred, right? There are beliefs that you have maybe a mother or father who you had not taken good care of. That mother or father will come back, you know, as their child to punish you. How? You become a sickly child, right? Maybe you become a child that you can't do anything about it. You just be carrying around all over the place. That's also a belief that people can reincarnate to punish, or someone who has been killed by the village can reincarnate and become an armed robber that will be terrorizing the whole village. All right? So those are these beliefs that certain things, and how will you not know that the person may come with some unique marks, some resemblance or character of a person that reincarnated them. Okay? I would say that you'll be amazed that most of us sitting down here fully believe in reincarnation. And this teaching has not said whether it is correct or not. We are simply trying to understand whether it's even possible. Okay. Still on that, as a matter of fact, I'm the one teaching, but I'm sure if I take this mic around, we'll hear a lot of interesting versions. You know, I have an uncle that calls me a particular name. I don't even think he remembers my name. That's what he has called me since I know him, right? According to him, there was a grand uncle that I never met that reincarnated in me, right? I was like, that person better know what he was doing, right? But that's what he calls me till date. A particular uncle. I don't know why. I've not asked him. I think he mentioned resemblance. He mentioned some things, and that's what he calls every time he sees me. We happen to live in Benin together, so he started calling me that. Even as a small boy, and now he's in the village. And anytime he sees me, he calls me the same name, right? Believing that I actually reincarnated by some persons like that. And talking about names too, we traditionally give names that suggest belief in that. You know, Igbo people will say somebody is in Nennaya. That simply means the father's mother. You know, why people can do that, sometimes just as a way of fondness for their mother, in most cases, it's because they actually believe that their mother has what? Come back to life. Nobody answers Nennaya when their grandmother is still alive, in the real sense of it. Right? So they normally will believe that their mother has what? Come back to life. Or you hear something like Nana. That means the father has also what? Come back. Yoruba will say Babatunde, right? That simply meaning the father's father. So that's what we believe. I don't know what you call it in Akwa Ibom, but what I find interesting in Efik and Ibibio is actually how one name we go from generation to generation, right? You say somebody is Okon or Oko, right? You know, Apan, Apan, you know, 8 you know, and Okon, the great grandfather was Okon, the grandfather Okon, the father Okon, the man himself is also Okon, right? So it's either they believe that, oh, this they continue to come back, it's going to come back, or whatever it is, right? So you see that the way we give names in Africa also suggests our belief in what? In reincarnation. Having said all of this, the question then is, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? You know, what exactly is the position of the Bible? Let's see what the Bible says about death. The first one is the Bible talks about the finality of death, right? That death is the final position. The death is the final position. The Bible simply teaches that it is appointed unto men what? Glorify the quick with the reading